Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Here I am again with another lesson of grammar and another thing that is familiar for you because you have been doing this active passive since your school times. But in this presentation we are going to learn something new as well as revise the old lessons. Let's start. This slide is giving you a brief synopsis, a summary of what is coming ahead. We'll start with introduction, followed by why is it important of learning active passive. Then we'll have what are the fundamentals of structure of forming active and passive. Then we will have a quick glance at rules of active passive with intenses. Then rules of active passive for modal auxiliaries. Active passive for interrogative words would be following. Active passive for imperative sentence would be the last point in the lecture. Then I have made a brief test for you and then it is going to be the end. Introduction. Basically there are two main voices in English writing, the active voice and the passive voice. Simply put, an active voice sentence is written in the form of A does B. That is, action rather than action, subject is more important. Example is Maria sings the song. Passive construction on the other hand is written in the form of B is done by A. The song is sung by Maria would be the passive construction of the same sentence, and here the action somehow is more important than the subject. Why do we learn active passive? Students are usually learning it randomly and from examination point of view, but these things have a practical significance and importance in your daily life. It is important to learn active passive to make the focus clear to the listeners and to the readers. What happens is, in active voice, the doer of the action is to be focused. And on the other hand, passive voice is used when the action is more important than the doer. Let's illustrate this through an example. For example, the sentence says, the boy hit the ball. This is the active construction. And the passive construction of the same sentence would be the ball was hit. Now you can see that the emphasis in the first sentence is who has done it, that is the boy. He is the doer of the action, therefore he is coming first. The boy hit the ball. In the second sentence the emphasis shifts to the ball and therefore it has come before who has hit the ball. In fact, the person who has hit the ball is not even mentioned. And this is another thing to remember, that it is not necessary that object or action or who has done the action, doer of the action, would necessarily be mentioned in passive sentences. Remember that. Significance of learning continues. Active passive, always remember, is used when we want to be precise and to the point. Passive voice is used when we want to shift responsibility, when we are not ready to accept the responsibility. We intentionally try to hide the subject of the action, to avoid blame or to cover our guilt. These are few of the instances in which passive construction would be helpful. Example is, corruption was made on massive scale. You can see that was made is a passive construction of the sentence, and the active of it would be I am responsible for corruption. Now see that the active construction of the sentence is boldly accepting the responsibility. Let's come to the basic structure of active passive. The normal structure, that is the normal structure of active sentence, English sentence, follows the following pattern. We have the doer, subject, plus verb, plus object. The example of is it, mother cooks dinner. The structure of passive voice is subject plus auxiliary, that is be form, plus main verb, and that is used always in third form. Dinner is cooked by. How to form passive voice? Always remember 2-3 things. The passive voice requires a double verb. In addition to the main action verb, you have a be form of the verb dependent upon whatever is the tense. And in the passive form, always the past participle, that is the third form of the verb, is used. Now let's have a look at the sentences that are given above. Sally drove the car off the road, that is the main verb, that is the active voice, and you have only one verb, that is the main verb, drove. When this same sentence is changed into passive voice, the car was driven off the road by Sally. You have, in addition to the main verb, you have the addition of be form of was in the form of auxiliary. Let's come to the second sentence. The dog bit Timmy on the arm. Bit is the only verb that is used in the active sentence. In passive construction, Timmy, addition of was, bitten is the third form of bit on the arm by the dog. So you have the use of two verbs, auxiliary and the main verb, in the passive construction. Remember that. Let's have a quick revision of be form. Be form is am, is, are, was, and were. Now be form has a dual role, a double role to play in English grammar. Sometimes it is be form is acting as a principal verb, and at times be form is acting as auxiliary, that is the supportive verb, helping verb. Come to an example. That was a last chance. Was, you can see, is only here as a main verb. There is no other action verb. And the other example is she is playing with her toys, and playing is the main verb, is just an auxiliary. Changes of be form in passive voice. Be, since it is a verb, therefore it changes with respect to the tenses. Simple present, be, would be changed into is or are, whatever the subject requires. Present continuous would be having the transformation into being. Present perfect, have, has been. Simple future will be. Future perfect, will have, has been. These are the changes that be form has in passive. Remember two golden rules for learning active passive. If one doesn't have a strong grip on tenses, he is never going to be a master of active passive. Tenses, learning tenses, to have an accurate idea what tenses are all about, is the first stepping stone to learning good active passive. And the second rule is that unlike direct indirect, where moods were more important, the tense in active passive is more important as compared to the moods. Now let's start doing active passive tense wise. What you can see in the picture is a table from your book, directly copied and pasted. This is page number 159, second years, that is in your book. And rather than going to any foreign sources, why not stick to the book, because they have pretty nicely described each and every tense, and they have cleared the difference how each and every tense would be having changes. Let me read it for you. Present, simple present, if the tense is he visits us, the example is given. Rules are that is, are, am would be added plus participle plus by. So the sentence that you will have in the passive is we are visited by him. Present continuous, he is visiting us. Is, are, am, you will have an addition of being plus past participle plus by. We are being visited by him. If you have present perfect, he has visited us, that would be changed according to the rule, that is has been or have been, whatever is appropriate, plus past participle plus by, we have been visited by him. And the good news for you is that present perfect continuous does not have any passive voice. If any grammar books, and I have seen such books which are making the passive voice of all perfect continuous tenses, these are not reliable, let me tell you. Come to past simple. He visited us. Second form. But when in passive voice, you will be having the addition of was, were, again whatever is proper, plus participle, past participle plus by. So the sentence would be, we were visited by him. Past continuous, he was visiting us. That would be was oblique were plus being plus past participle plus by. We were being visited by him. This you can see is another copy of the same page. I have tried to enlarge it and I have tried to make it rather more clear, so you just have to take a closer look at it. I have already explained it. Just notice that if you have a strong grip on tenses, you will come to know the minor differences. He is visiting us, for example, if the sentence is in present continuous. And just notice the changes that are occurring in past continuous. He was visiting us. In passive voice, it would be is would be changed into are, and in past tense of passive voice, are was would be changed into were plus being. So it is pretty easy to remember. This is the next page, 160 page. Past perfect, the normal construction, the active construction would be he had visited us. Rules say that when you are to change it into passive, had been would be added plus past participle plus by. The sentence would then be, we had been visited by him. The good news continues, past perfect continuous, this tense doesn't have a passive voice. Come to future tense, future simple, he will visit us. The passive construction will have an addition of be form, will be, plus past participle plus by. We will be visited by him. Future continuous does not have a passive voice. Future perfect, he will have visited us, would be having the addition of been, will have been plus past participle plus by. We will have been visited by him. Future perfect continuous, like all other tenses, it follows suit. It doesn't have a passive voice. Hope that is clear enough. So I'm not going any other revision of tenses. I just stick to the text and have a revision by opening your book, and you will come to know what the active and passive construction is saying to you. Tenses that do not have a passive voice. All perfect continuous tenses do not have a passive voice. We have done it earlier in the table, and this is just a reminder that perfect continuous tenses, neither present nor past nor future, none of the perfect continuous tenses have a passive voice. The future continuous doesn't have a passive. So there are 4 tenses that you do not have a passive voice. The last but not the least, and this is very important point, intransitive verbs cannot be changed into passive. Now let's see what intransitive verbs actually are. Let's try to know what are transitive verbs and what is the difference between transitive and intransitive verb. To begin with, let me tell you that verbs are of 2 kinds, static verbs and action verbs. Action verbs, as their name suggests, denote an action. The boy runs, she weeps, he cries, all are denoting action. But she is a girl, he is a boy, the boy sits, the boy is in the room. All these are static verbs. They are describing a condition, they are not describing any action. So, action plus static verbs. Now, action verbs are further divided into transitive and intransitive verbs. Transitive verbs are which are having a direct object, and they are normally answering the question what or whom. Just look at the example. Tim sang a song. Tim sang what? Answer the question. Tim sang a song. On the other hand, intransitive verb does not have a direct object. Tim sang loudly. So, Tim sang what? It doesn't answer. Tim sang how? He was singing loudly. So, intransitive verbs do not have, they are action verbs, but they do not have a direct object, and therefore they cannot be changed into passive voice. I hope that is clear for you. Now we come to passive voice models. We will begin with what models actually are. Models are special helping verbs, and models are may, might. May is the first form, might is the second form, can, could, will, would, shall, should, must, ought to. Why do we use models? Models express the mood of a verb, such as ability. Yes, you can do it. Yes, you may do it. You should do it. So they are alternatively expressing ability, possibility, necessity, or any other condition. They are used mostly with the main verb to form a sentence, and it remains same whether subject is singular or plural. For example, she can do it or they can do it. Can remains the same. There are no changes. So let's see what kind of changes do we have in the passive voice if the sentences have modal auxiliaries in them. These are the rules. If the sentence contains positive statement, the rule would be, the formula would be subject plus modal auxiliary plus verb, of course that would be in first form, plus object. Example is, they should attend the meeting. Now when you have to convert it into passive, object would be subject, modal would be having an addition, modal auxiliary would be having an addition of be, and when you are using be, the verb would automatically change into third form, and then you have an addition of by plus the subject or object. The example of the same sentence would be, the meeting should be attended by them. Negative sentence. If this auxiliary is having a negative in it, but what is to be done? Subject formula, subject plus modal auxiliary plus addition of not plus verb first form plus object. Example, they should not attend the meeting. I am taking one single example to make it clear to you what kind of changes would you be having in negative as well as interrogative. Convert object to subject plus modals plus not plus be, and when you are adding be, verb would be changed into third form, and plus addition of by, convert the subject to object. The meeting should not be attended by them. Interrogative. Interrogatives have modals would be coming in the front, would be coming first, then the subject, verb first form plus object. Should they attend the meeting? When you are changing it into passive, modals of course would be coming into the front. Conversion of object to subject plus be plus verb plus third form. Should the meeting be attended? Hope that is clear. This slide is giving you a few selected examples of how modal auxiliaries, when these are used in a sentence, how they are going to have changes into passive voice. I have taken only a few of modal auxiliaries, you can see that. And this is the use of can, active sentence. She can play a violin, she cannot play a violin, that is the negative. Can she play a violin? The passive construction would be having can be. A violin can be played by her, a violin cannot be played by her. Can a violin be played by her? The second example is of may and might. Active sentence, she may attend the concert, she may not attend the concert would be negative, and may she attend the concert. The passive construction would be of the similar sentences. The concert may be attended by her, the concert may not be attended by her, and may the concert be attended by her. Now, one thing to remember, dear students, is that you can put might in all of these sentences, but it has to be might in the active sentence. Changing it into passive and inserting might in place of may would be making a wrong construction of passive sentence. You don't change the tense, you just change the position of subject plus object. I hope you understand that. No tense changes, just the position interchanging of subject, what is important, in place of object. Passive voice of interrogative WH questions. Now, normal structure of WH questions in active voice is WH word plus auxiliary plus subject plus verb plus object. That is the active voice. Example for this sentence is, why did she punish you? That is the active voice. She is subject, punish is verb, and you is object, that is clearly seen. While changing the sentence into passive, this structure becomes WH word plus auxiliary plus subject plus third form verb plus by plus agent, whoever is the passive. Why were you punished by her? That would be the passive voice. Now, suppose if in WH question you have who punished you, the passive voice will have an addition of by whom if the construction has who. By whom were you punished? So, in normal construction of WH word, the word would remain as it is. The only exception to this rule is who. In case of who in active voice, that would be changed into by whom, and the rest of the construction for the interrogative question remains as it is. Passive voice of imperative sentences. Let's see what are imperative sentences. Sentences that issue request, give command, express desire or wish are called imperative sentences. I hope you remember that from direct indirect video 2. Imperative sentences, since these are addressed without naming the subject, hence these sentences are without subject and start with the principal verb. Open the door. Therefore, in passive voice, there are two ways of doing it in passive voice. You with an addition of let plus object plus be plus third form of verb. That would be open the door would then have the construction in passive form, let the door be open. This is the alternate method of changing into passive voice of imperative sentences. According to this method, imperative sentence is changed from active to passive according to the message. So you have to be aware what kind of message that sentence is particularly addressing or containing. For this purpose, if the sentence has an order or a command, the passive construction would start from you are ordered to. In case of request, you are requested to. In case of an advice, the sentence would change by adding you are advised to. If it contains a negative order, the active construction, let's suppose do not do this, the passive construction would be you are forbidden to do this. If it contains let us, then the passive construction would start from it is suggested that we should or it is proposed that we should. In case you have it is time to do this, verb first form, it is time for this to be done. That would be the passive construction. Some examples of imperative sentences according to the alternate method. Suppose the command says leave the room at once. You can see the tone that it is an order. You are ordered to leave the room at once, or if you have to use the construction of let the room be left at once. In the first construction, just see that you are ordered is in passive voice. So that is how the sentence is having a passive construction. Bring a glass of water for me. You're ordered to bring a glass of water for me, or let a glass of water be brought for me. Go to market immediately. You're ordered to go to market immediately. Final word on passive voices. Always remember, and all these points are important. The passive voice must not be confused with past tense. When you are asked to change the active into passive, you are not in fact asked to change the tense from present to past. What you are supposed to change is change the significance of subject in place of object. Always remember that voice has to do with who, while tense has to do with when. That is, tense is time bound, whereas voice is person bound. Who has done it? In passive voice, the object might not be mentioned since the action has importance. Already told you. Example for this sentence is massive scale corruption is made, and usually in the newspapers you have no object, no mention of object, only the passive construction. You don't know massive scale corruption is made by whom. It is not necessary to mention it. Passive voice is used, it has its importance, but it is used in academic writing when one requires an objective handling of the topic. But when writing about personal happenings, it is always advisable to stick to active voice. I hope all these points are clear to you. This is a brief test yourself exercise. It contains all the tenses and all that I have taught you. First sentence, he has deceived me badly. This is present perfect tense. One must respect one's elders. The construction says that it has the use of modal auxiliary. The road was fixed last week. This is a passive construction. You tell me what the tense is. Your name will not be mentioned in the news. Again, a passive construction. I should not be telling you. An old man at this stage, you should be able to point it out yourself. An old man has been injured in an accident. She will find a better way to deal with the problem. The boy was introduced to his new family. Does she write a letter? When will you return the book? She is stitching her new dress these days. I hope you will be able to score 10 out of 10. This brings us to the end of this lesson, this presentation. I hope you have enjoyed it, or at least have learned something new. I have, while making this presentation, have learned many new things. I hope you keep on learning, and if there are any confusion, you can always insert in comments section. Thank you and good luck for all your future ventures.